I was abused as a child. Now, my mother-in-law is trying to take my kids away because she thinks I'm going to abuse them too. My mother-in-law and I have not always seen eye to eye on how to raise my son. My wife and I have been united on how to raise our kid, but she knows best. I think narcissist would be her term. Anyways, it started 2 weeks ago when she was at our house watching our son while the wife and I went out for dinner and a movie. Mother-in-law found a book that I've been reading about childhood sex abuse and how to recover from it. I was sexually abused as a child by a daycare worker, and I've been seeing a therapist about it, and she has been wonderful in helping me. Up to this point, only 4 people know this has happened to me. My wife, mother, therapist, and my best friend. Now, my mother-in-law knows and has been telling everyone on her side of the family to keep me away from their kids. Some of the family members have stated that they don't want us around anymore. Others have reached out to call us in support. It ended up being the ones we liked supporting us and the ones we did not like to not support us with no love lost. The past week has been a legal nightmare because the mother-in-law also called CPS to report that I might be abusing my son since, well, I was abused myself. CPS has visited my house asking to come in. I told them no, they cannot come into my house without a warrant and to come back when they had one. I then called a lawyer that deals with this, and my mom had his number from 20 years ago, story to follow. Since then, CPS has knocked on the doors of my neighbors and asked about how I was treating my son. I know this because I work from home and could see her going door to door, and one of the neighbors asked what's going on and why they were asking. I have very little faith in CPS, as a teacher thought my dad was abusing me when I was younger, and called them into school to do an interview. I had a black eye from wrestling practice. The CPS worker asked if my dad was abusing me, and I just started crying. She took that as an admission of guilt that I was being abused. What I could not tell them because I was crying was that my dad died 3 weeks earlier. But luckily, the principal was in the room and was able to tell her that there's no way he could have done this, as he's dead. The focus then shifted to my mom. It was a long week, but we got through it, and we were cleared as the coach and the person that gave me the black eye had given statements. My wife and I now want to exclude the mother-in-law from ever seeing our son again, as she's breached our trust. I do not have a lot of money to pay this lawyer for a drawn-out battle. Is there a way to legally say my mother-in-law cannot and will not have access to our son if we're living or dead? Side note, question, what are the odds of a prosecutor taking on a case that happened such a long time ago, 20 plus years, but within the statute of limitations in Ohio? What I've read is not really promising. Thank you in advance for your comments and help. What's up guys, Mr. Reddito here. What we have in front of us is one hot story. I just want you to know there's a complete update for this one. Just know it gets a little crazier. With CPS and the grandma getting involved, of course. Guys, if you're not subscribed to the channel, you should probably hit that button. Why? Well, some of these stories come with updates way later on, and you might want to hear about those. So hit that subscribe button, turn on those bell notifications, and let's hop into your update. I just wanted to give an update for everyone going into the weekend. This is a good update. My lawyer and I spoke to the CPS rep and provided all my son's medical records and showed every time he went to the doctor, urgent care, etc. CPS also did a walkthrough with the house and the lawyer was present, and overall the visit went really well. The agent did find a few small places for improvement, but nothing was of concern. About 2 weeks after the visit, 1 week ago from this post, I got another visit from the same CPS agent saying that more accurate accusations have been made against me and my wife this time, and that they have to investigate again. I asked if the accuser was my mother-in-law, and they could not confirm or deny who made the accusation. But my wife called her mother, and she did confirm that it was in fact her mother that made the call. My wife was on the phone with mother-in-law while the CPS agent was in the house. I had my wife put her on speakerphone so the CPS agent could hear both sides of the conversation. My wife then asked, "Why are you making false statements to the police and CPS?" Mother-in-law's response was that since I was molested as a child, I was 100% going to do it to my son, as she wants to protect him. My wife then asked a very pointed question of, "So, you lied to the police and to CPS to further your agenda against my husband?" The mother-in-law responds with, "Yeah, I lied, but it was for the child's safety." At this point, the CPS agents heard enough, filled out some forms, and left. My wife and I were beyond mad about how brazen the mother-in-law's been acting. I ended up getting a call from CPS agent, and she told me that she had relayed the details of the conversation to my local police department, since the mother-in-law had called them to make a report. She said to speak to Detective Bob, if that's his real name. I reached out to Detective Bob and sat down with him, my wife and lawyer. We ended up filing a report about the false accusations. The good thing in my city is that the police took a no-nonsense approach to false accusations and will go after people that make them. The police did interview my mother-in-law, and she did admit to making false statements and lying to the police about it. So now she's been charged with falsifying a police report and making one other charge that I forgot at the moment. But she's been charged. On a side note, Detective Bob was very supportive of me when he found out the reason why mother-in-law was making the reports was due to me being molested. He provided phone numbers for help and even brought in a counselor if I needed to talk. I was very surprised of how he treated me with respect throughout the whole process. My wife and I have also sat down with an estate lawyer and completely written out her life and stated that she is not to have custody of our son. We listed other family members to take care of our son if we both die, and the other members have agreed to this. We've also decided to file a small claims court case against the mother-in-law for lawyer fees that we have to pay to cover ourselves. The lawyer did agree to keep those fees to the max for small claims in Ohio. Alright, let's read a similar situation comment. My mother-in-law is like this. I opened up about how I came from a house of abuse. My little sister was abused by a pedophile group when she was 5. I have most of my memories around this age missing. Life was physical and emotional abusive from 5 to 17. I let her know this, attempting to create a relationship and understanding. She used it against us just like this person's mother-in-law did. She attempted to get custody of my daughter, gaslight her daughter into living, only to threaten to kick her out after 3 days. Some people are just evil. I do agree with that, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this story in the comment section down below. There's still one more story left in today's video. The title is, "Today I found out my boyfriend has been cheating on me with his own mother." My boyfriend and I have been together for almost a year now. We met at my little food court job and immediately hit it off. After a month of knowing each other, he asked me to be his girlfriend. Of course, I said yes. Our relationship has been pretty great up until this point. He takes me on dates, compliments me, and just makes me feel super duper special. The only weird thing is he would never let me meet his mom. His parents are divorced and have been for almost his entire life. The divorce was messy and his father ended up getting full custody. They had the typical every other weekend, 6 weeks out of the summer setup. I've met his dad and his paternal family, but he would be weird when I brought up his mom. He would tell me things like, "Oh, we have a complicated relationship. I'll tell you about it later on." About 3 months into the relationship, I began to realize he would never answer his mother's calls or texts around me. He would hastily clear it out or step into another room to talk, even if it was just texting. I tried not to let it bother me because, well, I wanted to respect his boundaries. Last week, he spent the night with me for the first time. I woke up at around 3 a.m. because of a bad dream, and I could not go back to sleep. I rolled over to grab my phone in the dark, but accidentally picked his up instead. I looked at the message from his mother, opening his phone, and began to read through them, and noticed they were mostly very sexual. There would be nudes exchanged, hardcore sexting, and messages for them to meet up for sexual acts. I read the conversations in disbelief. I tried to pretend like it wasn't real and I just dreamed it. Well, a few days later I confronted his about it. It did not take long before he broke down and told me everything. He's been having sex with his own mother since he was 13 years old. They usually have intercourse once a week, sometimes more. They've been doing this throughout our entire relationship. He never told her that he had a girlfriend because he wanted them to still have their weekly sessions. At this point, I don't know what to do. I love him with all my heart, but I'm so disgusted with him and his mother. I haven't talked to him since he told me everything. After he told me, I ran out and drove out of town, 2 hours away. I blocked him on every social media and his phone number. I changed the locks to my house, and I've always called the weekend to work so he can't find me. What should I do? Make it work out or break up with him? Update number 1. I have no idea where to start with the events that have occurred within the past 11 hours since I last posted. I'm still shaken up and it's hard to process. My boyfriend finally messaged me back a few hours after I asked him to meet up with me. He agreed to meet me at his apartment. I made sure that I was going to talk to his dad before him so he could help me find the correct course of action for my boyfriend. Well, I met with his father, we'll call him X. I was so scared before talking to X that I was shaking. My voice was unsteady and I had tears in my eyes when I walked up. I had no idea where to begin. X looked concerned, so he sat us down across from each other, and I told X that I believe his son has been sexually abused for 6 years now. Of course, X was taken aback. I started to tell him about what my boyfriend told me. That's when X started to be more and more puzzled. He stopped me while telling the story I knew about my boyfriend and his mother. X told me that there's no way this is completely true. When he says this, I start getting confused as well. X tells me that my boyfriend's mother died in a car accident when he was 8. X never remarried or had a girlfriend. At this point, I'm completely dumbfounded. I have no idea what to say. X tells me that he did not think my boyfriend's mother was sexually abusive while she was alive, or why my boyfriend would even tell me this. X also tells me that he has no idea who Mom might be on his phone. Well, I take a few minutes to calm down and think before I head over to my boyfriend's apartment. The drive was only 10 minutes from X's house for my boyfriend's. I took this time to process what X told me and what I would say to my boyfriend. When I got to the apartment, I promptly went inside. I demanded answers immediately. I asked the truth about his mother, the messages I saw, and if they've really been having sex since he was 13. Of course, he apologized again and gave me the same story, but it made me so angry. This is where I lost my cool. I yelled and told him that X has told me about his biological mother, that she's been dead for almost 11 years. I told him I knew there was no way the story he told me was true, because his mother passed when he was 8. My boyfriend became silent and looked down at the floor. At this point, I was crying uncontrollably. I felt so bad for what's happened, and I wanted to get him therapy. I was willing to forgive him for keeping the secret from me. My boyfriend was silent for a few minutes, then finally spoke to me. He told me he made up the whole story. The contact he had as Mom was an ex-girlfriend he regularly hooked up with. She was 20 and a bartender in our city. He puts her name as Mom so I would not get suspicious that he was talking to another woman so often. He did not think I would find out, so he fabricated the whole darn story. This way, I would not be mad at him. He told me he figured that I would feel sorry for him and stay with me. I felt so betrayed. when he finally confessed this. In past few days, I went from having a wealthy relationship to thinking of my boyfriend has been sexually abused by his mother, and then to find out it was all a lie, just because he did not want me to know he was sleeping with his ex. He tried to justify it further, telling me it was meaningless and he only loves me. I told my boyfriend that I want nothing to do with him and left. He tried to follow and plead with me, but I just ignored him. I drove home, threw out everything he gave me, and blocked him once again. I cannot believe he lied about something so major just to protect himself. I haven't stopped crying since I left his apartment. I'm so hurt, and now I just don't know what to do. I no longer want him in my life. I'm considering moving town so he doesn't find me. He has gotten online and used a fake number to try and get a hold of me to apologize. I need to clear my head and try to just take everything in. I'll turn off my phone and computer for a while so he can't try to contact me again. Update number 2. So, my now ex-boyfriend came to my apartment and started banging on the door, begging to be let in so we could talk. At this point, I've turned all the lights off and I'm being quiet so he'll hopefully leave. I know he can see my car out front, so it's obvious that I'm still here. I want to call the cops, but I'm not sure there's much they can do. I'm thinking about going back to live with my parents until this all blows over. I'm also considering talking to his ex that he's been hooking up with. I got her full name and where she works. I'll keep you guys updated once I learn about more. I just want to read this one sentence from this comment. To cheat is bad enough, but to flip it and pretend that he's the victim of a long-term sexual abuse by his own mother, who turns out to be both innocent and, well, dead, is off the bloody charts. Guys, that man is off the rocker. Let me know your thoughts on this story and what exactly you would have done if you were in OP's position. As tough as the position as it was, let me know what you would have done. That's all the content I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Consider subscribing to the channel because I promise there's a lot more to come.